Welcome back to Guitar Goomba, guys. This is going to be episode 5 of our giveaway guitar build project. And today we're going to be working on the neck. Now, as you may have noticed, I have a little bit of a line here on the neck because today we're going to be profiling the headstock. And I originally was thinking that I would do a copy of the Telecaster headstock, the actual Fender one, but that's a Fender, this isn't, so let's not copy where it's just not warranted. So instead, I've gone for a very simple design, simply radius the end here, and then go with a straight line from the heel here up to that radius. Now, I'm not going to cut on the front side of this because you have the transition down to the headstock here. So instead, I'm going to cut on the back. And as you can see, I've taped off the back side of the headstock over the part that we don't want to cut away. This is the part we do want to cut, so this is going to be our cut line. So in order to do this project, you will need, obviously, your headstock. You'll also need clamps to hold your headstock in place, something soft to keep your headstock from being damaged, and of course, something to cut your headstock with. Now, you'll notice that all of these tools that I'm using are DeWalt brand, but that's just because those are the ones I have. I'm not sponsored by DeWalt, although that would be cool. Next, what I want to do is I want to put my neck on the edge of my bench here. Line it up with the edge, and I'm going to roll my mat over. That way, when I put my clamps on, I'm not clamping directly onto the neck, and that should prevent us from damaging the neck. Now, I'm going to use 4 clamps, even though 2 should be enough to do the job, because anything worth doing is worth overdoing, right? So what I want to do is take my saw and run it right along just to the wood side of this line. I do not want to actually hit the tape, because if I'm hitting the tape, I'm right at my scribe line, and that would be perfect, but I'm using a jigsaw, so the cut isn't going to be perfect. So we want to give us a little bit of extra room that we can use for sanding. The trick is go slow, let the tool do the work. Okay. And there we have it. As you can see, I stayed just about a 1/16 of an inch to the inside of my tape line, and the reason for that is because you see these little curly cues. Now, when we take the clamps off and flip this over, you will see that we have very similar here on the front side, which is why we wanted to stay proud. And you also notice we have some bit of burning right here along the edge because my saw blade, even though it's brand new, wasn't really up to the task of going through this hard maple. Next up, gonna get busy with the sander. Now, this is a more semi-industrial type sander, but it was cheap. I got it from Harbor Freight, didn't cost a lot. And you can get the same results by clamping your neck in a vise and using a belt sander or even a hand sander or a plane or a file. Just takes more time. So let's get started. Now we want to keep it flat and grind it down just to our scribe line. You got a nice little radius there. We're going to work on radiusing this top. All right, and that will take us to where we can finish this off by hand. All right, next up, hand sanding. So we're going to have our neck, and we're going to have our sanding block. This is really simple. Just keep it flat and level and sand. What you want to do is make sure it's nice, flat, and even, and get the scratches from the belt sander out. After a few passes, you see that's looking nice. We want to clean up where we rebeveled here. That's looking pretty good. Give it a little sink across the back. Now what we want to do is clean up this front edge here. And like with any other tool with sandpaper, you want to let the tool do the work. Now this is a 120 finish, and we are there. So now I just need to go up in the grits and get it a little bit finer. I'll do that off camera. Some technical difficulty. We lost the audio on this part of the video, but it's pretty simple. When doing the cowboy burst on the headstock, it's exactly the same as when I did it on the body. You just start with the lightest color, then add your middle color, go all around, and then take your darkest color and go around the perimeter all the way around the outside. Then you just work your way backwards from darkest to lightest again, just like I did on the body. And then you are going to take a dry rag and rub it in and blend it out. That's it. Finish up with our neck for our giveaway project Telecaster. Now, I say finish with the neck, but what I mean is finish applying finish to the neck. I'm not going to get into detailing the fretboard and doing the setup until after we've completely done the finish on the entire guitar. But as you can see, the stain is done. I have sanded the whole neck down to an 800 grit finish. So today we're going to be applying our lacquer to our neck. Well, we don't want to lacquer our fretboard, so we have to tape that off. I've got some tape. Now, we also don't want to apply the finish to the heel of the neck here or the sides where it's going to come in contact with the neck, with the pocket, because one, it's really tight already, and two, I don't want anything that's going to dampen the vibration for the acoustics. Now, you're going to want some tape, a pencil, and a razor blade. Because what we're going to do is set the neck into its pocket, nice and tight. Crank that down, get that into position. Then take our pencil and we're going to draw where the neck goes into the guitar, because those are the parts that we don't want the finish on, right? So, and one last line right here gives me all of the layout that I need. So now I'm going to pull the neck off, slide the body out of the way, and we can start with our tape. So we're going to tape this part from here back. Grab some of this tape. And I know taping stuff off is boring, much like sanding. But it's important, so don't skimp on this. Now, since the bit on this side doesn't go all the way down, we're going to take our razor blade and we're going to just trim that like so. And that way, we will still get finish here. So we're going to take our little piece here, and we're going to use this for this part here. Then just repeat the process. Now, when you come to the part here where some of the neck is sticking up, but part of it isn't, what I like to do is I break my tape at an angle, and then I tuck the angle up into the front here where this meets, get that right up to the line, and then line it up on the line going back, and there we go. We have a tape. Now, because this goes back, I want to take this bit off. And that way we get right up to there. Now we do the same thing on this side, but to a much smaller extent. We just use a little piece of tape like so. Then our neck pocket is taped off. Now we have to tape off the fretboard. So we come to the front of the fretboard where the rosewood meets the maple. And we want to tape that right to that line. Now, again, because we're going to be painting up the side of this a little bit, we want to slice off the excess. Then we can just lay that down on the fretboard, and we can run our long strips down the fretboard. Now for this, I'm going to use my tape to hold my neck up, because I want to go down the side of the fretboard right even with the rosewood. And I'm going slow and holding just a little bit of tension on my tape, and then taking my finger and running it along the rosewood to set the tape in place. And then once we get that all pressed down, we just fold it over like so. Do the same thing on the other side. I want a nice long strip. And again, I'm going to use my tape roll to hold that up. And I'm going to just stick that down there. And you want to be as precise with this as you can. Now some folk will actually lacquer the side of the fretboard. They only tape off the top, because they figure when they go back and they do the setup, they're going to be sanding on the sides of the fretboard. And that's a valid thought, but I just don't want to create any extra work for myself. So now we come around the back side of the fretboard, and I want to just set that like that. Tuck that in there so we can get up underneath the fretboard, because I don't want to starve my fretboard of air. And I want to keep a nice edge for my lacquer. And then I will do this over here. And one more piece of tape over the top. And this is a done deal. So, slice this piece off. And whenever you're using a razor blade, you want to use a sharp razor blade. Preferably new. That way, it cuts clean, cuts easy. Now, and we will spray this like this. Boy, look how that lacquer brings out that grain, huh? I want to hold my neck like so. I'm going to get lacquer on my hands, but that is just the price you pay for a nice lacquer job. And of course, I could wear gloves, and you should. Okay. Now, I don't want the lacquer on my neck to be too thick, because then that affects playability. So I'm going to let this set for a few minutes. Then I'm going to give it another whack of lacquer, but that is how it looks. See how we got that hazing that I talked about before? That milkiness? That means you are just at the cusp of having too much on there that you would end up with a run. We don't want to run, but we want full, deep coverage. And that is what we will get with one more good coat on the back. And there we go. So now, this is done. I will set it up to cure. That does it for the finish on the neck. Next time you see this, I'll be putting on hardware and doing setup, sanding the fretboard, leveling the frets, getting all that done ready to install on our body. Now, I'm going to set this back here so that it can dry off for me. If you want to win our giveaway guitar, our lovely, what I'm calling Cowboy Burst Telecaster, all you have to do is subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment below. If you haven't seen the previous videos in this build, first video is going to be right there. The most recent video is going to be right back down here. So, until next time, this is your Guitar Goomba, Lucky, saying, keep rocking.